Greetings, gardening friends. Welcome to our Spring 2024 garden tour. It is a beautiful day in early May here in West Michigan, and you're gonna have to excuse me. I'm easily distracted by birds, and there are a lot of them out today. So if you see me suddenly look off camera, don't panic. It's just that I heard or saw an interesting bird. But we're here to focus on the plants today, and we're starting off with this gorgeous creature right here. This is Black Hat Rhododendron. What does this remind you of?
You got me excited with this plant, Stacey, because you gifted one to me.
Ah, so you have one in your home garden.
Oh, beautiful. And I got to tell you, what I loved about it was the winter foliage. It was gorgeous.
Yeah, so the name Black Hat comes from the fact that the foliage turns a really attractive dark black green, one of my favorite colors, in winter. And you can see that some of that dark black green is still persisting. So if this plant looks kind of familiar to you, you're probably thinking of a similar rhododendron called PJM rhododendron.
Sure.
It is ubiquitous. You see it everywhere. And, you know, I have to say that poor Peter John Mezet really got the short end of the stick. He could have been famous, but now everyone just thinks of the rhododendron name for him as PJM. The Mezet family is a very famous rhododendron breeding family in Massachusetts, and I, again, feel like he kind of got the short end of the stick on that.
A wonderful family, and I've chatted with Peter before, Peter's son,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, in the Boston area.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
So this is a little bit like PJM, which you may be familiar with, but has a couple of important differences. So for one, you can see that the flowers are bigger and much more numerous. I have seen some PJMs that get this full flower coverage, but It's not consistent. So this really nice full flower coverage, and of course that black-green foliage in winter and spring that you mentioned, which just gives it a little bit of extra kind of drama. It's disease resistant, it's relatively fast growing as far as rhododendrons go. And in spring, you do get this gorgeous show.
And the bees.
And the bees are all over this. Now, I know a lot of people are probably thinking, rhododendron, bees, I read that book, Mad Honey. I've been hearing a lot about that lately. So these are just bumblebees. They're not making any honey. And I don't think we have any worries for our local beekeepers that they are feeding exclusively on rhododendrons. So we're going to move to another rhododendron since we're on the topic and show you that one.
Stacey, every time I see this, I can't help it. The dandy man makes everything he makes satisfying and delicious. This is delicious. Dandy man rhododendron.
The dandy man can.
The dandy man
I
can.
feel like I should be frolicking through this patch of dandy man color wheel rhododendrons, not just standing here, because these things are gorgeous. Now, this is one of our newer rhododendrons.
Okay.
It's only been on the market for perhaps 3 years or so, and rhododendrons are pretty slow growing, so you might not see a lot of it on the market yet, but it will continue to grow in its availability. And what makes Dandy Man Color Wheel so special, and how it got its name, is that it goes through 3 distinct color changes as it ages. So when the blooms start out, they're this beautiful kind of lipstick pink red. And then as the flowers open, you start to see more of this paler pink. So the pink red still persists on the outside of the petals, and the inside is white. And then as these fade and age, they turn all white. So it's like you're kind of in this like never-ending movie with something different happening through the whole bloom period. And this is one of those plants that when people see it looking like this in the garden center, they have to have it.
Oh, it looks like lipstick.
It does look like lipstick.
Yeah.
And rhododendrons are evergreens, so they're a really nice choice for year-round interest. And if you're thinking, well, I've never had success with rhododendrons, what are you pulling my leg? They are plants that definitely need the right place.
Correct.
And that place is?
Well, they need protection from winter sun.
Yeah.
And also they need good drainage, because I've found with rhododendrons, Stacey, the root system is rather small proportionately to the top of the plant. So you want to make sure they have good drainage.
Yeah, and the roots are really close to the surface compared to a lot of plants.
Yeah.
So having good drainage, but also soil that's moist enough that those roots don't get super drought stressed is really key. So if you're not growing a rhododendron in enough shade, if it's not protected from winter sun and wind, and you don't have mulch on it, well then no, you probably haven't had great success with rhododendrons. If you have those conditions, rhododendrons can be the perfect choice. But if you don't have those conditions, you're probably going to struggle with them. But that's where it's all about right plant, right place. And if you have the right conditions, can you imagine having something this beautiful to look forward to every year?
It's a great way to start spring right out of the gate. Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, and Sammy Davis Jr. would be proud.
Speaking of which, this planting could use some bulbs. Really spruce it up.
There
Go
you
for
go.
broke. One of my favorite things about spring here in the Midwest, and actually throughout a lot of the country, is when the redbuds start to bloom. You know, they're kind of an understory tree, so when you look out over the woods, you just see this smattering of bright pink, and it feels so out of place, and yet so at home somehow. I love them. They have beautiful heart-shaped leaves, and they're just a beautiful native tree for spring flowers. And this particular redbud, Cercis canadensis, has an extra feature. It's called Midnight Express, and it gets that name because its foliage when it comes out is black. Now, there was a couple of other black redbuds out on the market previously, but they have been known to be kind of disease prone, kind of weak growing. Okay. And so it's been difficult to find them at an affordable price. And so what this one is it resolves a lot of those disease issues and still gives you that amazing black heart-shaped foliage.
And I love the foliage on redbud trees, but the other part that I love, Stacey, is the fact that this is one of those unique trees that is vibrant with all kinds of blooms in spring prior to the foliage emerging.
Right. They call that flowering naked.
First.
They call that flowering naked.
Yeah.
They really do.
Yeah.
I'm not making that up. But that gives the flowers so much more impact. I mean, it's perfectly
Am
swell.
I blushing?
It's perfectly swell when things come out with their foliage, but when you get this look, and redbuds have another interesting characteristic, and that is called cauliflory, where they flower on their stems. So this one isn't doing it too much, but very often you may have a redbud where the stem just becomes a sort of clump of pink, and that's a very common thing for redbuds to do. It's just an inherent characteristic that they have. So this is one of the newer Proven Winners ColorChoice trees. Again, just starting to come out on the market. If you see one, snatch it up. You might not get another opportunity to buy it. Full sun, and it's a nice small tree that's perfect for home landscaping.
So for people keeping score at home, Stacey, botanical name, help us out. So it's Cercis.
I say Cercis.
Cercis canadensis.
Cercis, C-E-R-C-I-S.
Fabulous.
Canadensis, meaning it's not from Canada, but North America. So. It might be native to Canada too, I don't know. Anyway, Midnight Express Cercis, beautiful plant spring, summer, and fall. And of course you get great architecture in the winter too. Rick, I think this is the perfect plant for you.
Showtime!
Showtime! So if you didn't know, Rick is embarking on a second career doing stand-up comedy. And so he's hearing that it's showtime a lot. Now, you can see why this is called showtime, because when this thing bursts out, oh my gosh. I mean, I'm kind of speechless right now. I don't really know what to say about it that you're not seeing, except that it smells wonderful. That you can't really see on the...
Sensational.
I love that smell of crab apples. It almost smells like fresh water to me, which sounds weird, but I mean...
No, it does.
It's just like
It has a fresh scent to it.
A fresh, beautiful smell. Mm-hmm. And I think the only person or the only thing that's appreciating this Showtime crabapple more than you and I are the bees, because it is absolutely crawling. So a fantastic plant for pollinators and for you too, because I mean, who wouldn't want this in their yard? Crabapples are such a great choice for a small tree. Like, I feel like if I had I could only plant one small tree in my yard, I'd probably make it a crabapple.
Especially here in the north. They seem to grow and do so well. For those who watch and listen to us, keeping score at home, botanical name is Malice.
Yep.
And I've mentioned that to people before and they're like, what a horrible name, M-A-L-I-C-E? No, it's M-A-L-U-S if you're looking for it online.
Right, that's why I guess I say Malus, but also people have looked at me crazy when I've said Malus. So just call it a crabapple. Everyone understands what you mean. Showtime is in the Proven Winners ColorChoice tree line, so this is a newer plant, but because it is in that line, that means it's passed our tests for making sure it's disease resistant, which a lot of crabapples get, disease problems, and of course, beauty, but you can see that for yourself. So you can't get much showier or more beautiful than Showtime crabapple. Good B-roll shot. Rick.
Yes.
Who doesn't love lilacs?
Everyone loves lilacs.
Right.
And everyone has a memory of lilacs, I would say, around Mother's Day where you've picked some for mom.
Yep. And just smelling them on the spring air. In all my years in horticulture, there has not been a single plant that people in hot climates have wished to grow more than lilac. Maybe peonies are a close second, but definitely lilac. I wish I had $1 for every person who said, I now live in Florida, I now live in Arizona, I now live in California. Can I grow lilacs? And the fact is that lilacs actually need a chilling period. We talked about this on the show. In order to bloom well. And so it's not so much that they don't tolerate the heat, it's that they don't get enough cold in warm climates to actually develop their buds. But this variety, this is Scentara Pura, is a Syringa hyacinthiflora. It's a mouthful, but it is what it sounds like, hyacinthiflora. So flowers resembling hyacinths, which I guess you could kind of make the case for.
I can make the connection, sure.
And this type requires far less chilling than most lilacs do. So we actually sell this as a lilac that can grow even, sorry, that was a redwing, that was a cedar waxwing.
Just wing it.
These can grow even in USDA Zone 8. Yeah, sorry, it's like a fairy tale up in here right now if you can't tell. So these can actually grow even in USDA Zone 8. So that's not super heat tolerant, but it does indicate that they need less chilling hours. So it's a good choice if you are missing that scent of lilac from before when you find yourself in a warmer climate. And what a scent this has.
So what I love about this lilac, Stacey, is that it stays in check as far as size is concerned. Many of your older, would it be vulgaris lilacs?
Yeah.
They tend to get very large. And what you mentioned about the scent, I think I had read somewhere that as a child, if you smell something, it's almost imprinted on your brain. You carry that with you the rest of your life. I think that's just part of the allure of lilacs.
And the color. I mean, it's such a beautiful color. You don't see this color in nature too much except for the lilacs. And so there's actually another lilac in the Scentara series. I want to go check it out now.
Yeah, let's do it.
The second member of the Scentara series, this is Scentara Double Blue lilac. This is also a Syringa hyacinthiflora, so another one. It's not going to need quite as much chilling and is just fantastically fragrant.
It's like overpowering. It's just, wow.
Oh, it's so good. I wish you could smell it. The flowers are doubled. So when you actually look at the individual florets here, I mean, of course, it's impressive just to look at and see all that color. But when you get in close, the flowers are so intricate. This would be a perfect Mother's Day gift.
Yeah.
This is one that like your mom will love forever. It's very long-lived. This is our original plant that we've been trialing for many years before we introduced it a couple of years ago. And another nice thing about Syringa hyacinthiflora is in the landscape, they're very tough and disease resistant. So I always tell people, if you want to kill a lilac, the best thing you can do is just water the heck out of it. Lilacs are extremely sensitive to poor drainage and wet soils. But if you can give it good drainage and sun, that's really all lilacs need. I mean,
and Stacey, I'm thinking with the trend as far as cut flowers and bringing cut flowers indoors, what an ideal plant to have in your landscape.
Absolutely. If you have a lilac in bloom and you're not bringing some flowers in to enjoy inside, you're missing out on half the fun. It's easy to take, branches from this without harming the plant at all. It's going to easily recover from the branches that you do take. All right, Rick, does this plant look familiar to you at all?
Stacey, I'm going to guess.
Okay.
That looks like a blueberry to me.
You're right. And if you're from West Michigan, you should be able to recognize blueberries at about 55 miles an hour. But you're right. It is a blueberry. This is Sky Dew ornamental blueberry. If you're looking at this thing and thinking, well, it kind of looks like a blueberry, but it's got a lot of weird things about it that I'm not used to seeing with blueberries, you're right. This is an ornamental blueberry. Now, that's not to say it doesn't set fruit, but that's not the main point of this particular blueberry. It is an extremely colorful blueberry plant. So you can see that right now, this foliage is emerging kind of tinged with pink and bright gold. And this bright gold color is going to persist throughout the summer. And then when fall comes, it turns all sorts of crazy colors. It's just like a kaleidoscope. And seeing this plant in bloom right now, it's actually quite interesting. When you look at these flowers, they have this kind of little blue calyx on them that just adds extra color. It's one of those plants that people will be like, what is that? And no one will expect that you're growing a blueberry because it is so ornamental. So everything we were saying earlier about rhododendrons, well-drained soil, acidic, some shade, moist, but again, not too wet, will be perfect for blueberry too. So if you are one of those people who maybe don't like rhododendrons, or you're looking for a little bit more color and you feel like, shade is hard, as we said on the show, this would be a great choice. You can see it's growing in nice filtered light right now. And that's really going to help those colors look even more vivid.
We have a lot of blueberry growers in West Michigan.
Yeah.
And obviously it's spring. But one of my favorite things about blueberry, Stacey, is the fall color.
Yeah.
Unreal.
We'll have to hit this one on a fall tour so everyone can see it then. Okay, I don't think that we can really say that we saved the best for last because everything on this tour has been so fabulous, as you can see. But we did save one of the best for last. And this gorgeous beast that we're standing in front of, it's actually a couple different gorgeous beasts, it's not one plant that's this big, is Double Take Peach Flowering Quince. And, Adriana is going to show you how close up, how beautiful these flowers are. Flowering quince, I feel like, is one of those kind of, people think of them as a really old-fashioned plant, but when they see one, they change their minds entirely, because who wouldn't want this in their yard?
Completely stunning. And Stacey, when I see something like this, the blooms almost look like roses in full bloom in summer.
Yeah, they do. They actually kind of make me want to eat cake and ice cream because they're so pretty.
Let's do that.
They just have this like amazing cake and ice cream kind of look, but they are in the rose family.
Yeah.
And so it's related to cherries, apples, pears, all those other things that are flowering right now. But there's a couple of unique things besides how beautiful these flowers are. They are double, which is part of what gives them that rose look. But it's also thornless. You can see that I'm handling these branches, no thorns on these, and quince is known for being pretty thorny.
And that's what I'm trying to demonstrate, because I'm pressing my legs here against the branches, and generally with a quince you'd get poked pretty good.
Pretty hard right away. So it's a thornless quince, and you can see that the flower clusters really concentrate heavily together, which gives it this much more distinctive look. Now, quince kind of have a little bit of a quirk, which is that they set their flower buds the previous season. So last summer sometime they set these flower buds, and then this growth continued to go after that. Those were already set, and this didn't have enough time to set flower buds. So you do typically get this look where you're going to have a shoot of green followed by this cluster of flowers. So it's a little bit of a different look, but it has nothing to do with you doing anything wrong or anything like that. It's just one of those quirks and things that naturally occur with flowering quince. But flowering quince makes an excellent cut flower.
Stunning.
I know when I worked at the magazine, the flower shops could not keep this in stock. It's so popular, but it's even better as a cut flower since it doesn't have thorns, because who wants a cut flower full of thorns? So this is just a beautiful plant. These also don't set fruit. So a lot of times when people hear quince, depending on where they're from and what their culture is, they might think an edible quince.
Yes.
And there's two different types of quince. The edible quince is most often eaten is Cydonia oblonga, and that is actually a tree, and it gets these big green fuzzy fruits that you harvest in fall. This is also a quince, and this gets small yellow fruits that cling tightly to the branches in fall. Now these double take quinces do not set fruit. So if fruit is what you want, you're going to have to find yourself a different one. But if you don't want to deal with fruit, or you don't like the way it looks, because it looks a little bit strange.
Beautiful. And you grow it for its stunning, beautiful flowers. Get your vitamin C someplace else.
Exactly. So we hope you enjoyed this garden tour. We'll be back in a few weeks, because you can just tell there's so much else about to burst into bloom here, and we want to share it all with you. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any episodes of the Gardening Simplified show or future garden tours.